Hi folks, so I am currently sat on the south side of the River Stour estuary as we progress towards Dover Court. We're actually not walking today, we're just going to enjoy a Sunday off in the woods. And as you can see, I am sitting right next to the water's edge. So I'm perched on a tree stump right by this sandy bay, tiny sandy bay. I'll try and show you in a second as the tide comes in. Just enjoying the view really across to the other side of the estuary. I've just seen two swans glide past and I'm looking over near to the spot where we camped the other night actually. So I'll just see if I can show you. So can you see the sandy bay here? There's the tide coming in. And I'll show you the view across the estuary in a moment. But the reason I'm doing this video is to share with you some fascinating Tudor history that I found out about a place on the other side of the estuary, very near to where we camped the other night. So I didn't want to miss out on this on a post. So even though I wasn't able to do it in time on the other side of the estuary the other day, I'm going to share it with you now, seeing as it's still in view. So this is a story all about Anne Boleyn, in fact, and connected to the village of Erwarton and the church known as St Mary's Church there. So we know that Anne Boleyn was famously executed by her husband Henry VIII. She was beheaded in the Tower of London on the 19th of May 1536. But after her execution, lots of stories emerged regarding the removal of her body and it being reburied elsewhere. Lots of other legends also arose concerning her heart. Many people said her heart had been stolen and hidden. And this story is all to do with Anne Boleyn's heart. Now, it's said that Anne Boleyn loved her time in Erwarton Hall as a child. She had many of her happiest days there, and before her execution, she reminisced a lot about those being some of the happiest days in her life, and supposedly requested that after her death, her heart was to be buried in St Mary's Church there. Now, it does make sense, there's a link. Her uncle, Sir Philip Calthorpe, owned Erwarton Hall, the big Tudor manor there, and he was married to Anne's aunt Amy. Now, after her death, many centuries later, in the 1800s, so 1837-38, there were some renovations that took place on the church, and inside the chancel wall they found a heart-shaped casket covered in dust, and they believed that this was Anne Boleyn's heart that had been buried and hidden in the chancel wall, and they reburied it under the organ in the church with a plaque that commemorated it being the place of Anne Boleyn's heart burial, buried by her uncle Sir Philip Parker. Now, there are a few discrepancies with the story in that, first of all, it's said by historians that heart burials were out of fashion by the end of the 14th century, making Anne's heart burial a little too late for what was in trend at the time. The other discrepancy is to do with the uncle's name. So you might have noticed earlier I mentioned that her uncle was called Sir Philip Calthorpe. That is the name of her actual uncle, Sir Philip Parker, whose name is written on the plaque by the organ where it commemorates the burial of her heart, supposedly. That is not her uncle. That was a man who later owned Erwarton Hall, the Tudor mansion, a bit later on, and he was responsible for some renovations that happened. So there are a few discrepancies, but that is the legend regarding Anne Boleyn's heart and St Mary's Church and Erwarton Hall in the village of Erwarton, right across the estuary from me, near where we camped the other night. Fascinating stuff. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. There you go, a bit about Anne Boleyn's heart this Sunday, and I hope you have a lovely day. We will update you later. Bye folks.